Hello and welcome. I am Forever Redeemed, and today is Thanksgiving. And this morning, I just had a really driving passion to share a message to bring awareness to the different large amount of people that celebrate this Thanksgiving Day. In my introduction, there was one thing that I was thinking about this morning, and that is how Thanksgiving has kind of become like a day of gluttony, to eat as much as you want, to fill up every spot in your stomach with delicious turkey and pie and French fried green beans and sweet potatoes. I mean, all the delicious courses you can think of. And many people can have the money to be able to set a course of this magnificent meal, tantalizing to the eyes. But there are a quite significant population in America that do not have this availability to be able to have this gourmet course. So as we gather with our families, and no, it is not meant to bring guilt. I am speaking this message on this Thanksgiving Day for the sole purpose to bring awareness. Awareness is very huge. So, as you are gathering with your family, and you are enjoying this delicious meal today, just count your blessings. Count your blessings. There are people like myself who is quite familiar with having a lifestyle of not having a huge amount of financial wealth. So for me, it is more easier to count my blessings because I don't have a lot of material possessions. So I am thankful, and I do count my blessings today. So another point that I would like to make, and I went online. I'm so thankful for what you can find online in a short moment's notice, because this morning is when I had that thought, but then I wanted to expand for awareness and enlightenment. I am part Native American. I am very proud of my Native heritage. And I would like to share with you a very important message regarding Thanksgiving. And please share this message to as many you can, because it is guaranteed that if you were brought up in America, in American schools, you have been presented a false story regarding Thanksgiving. I am here to present the true story. The true story, the true history of Thanksgiving in America. Americans have ranked Thanksgiving as their second favorite holiday after Christmas. It seems like no surprise, from football games to stuffing to the Macy's parade. Thanksgiving is both uniquely American and full of treasured traditions. But this rosy picture of modern celebrations leaves out most of the real history of Thanksgiving. Yes, Thanksgiving is a time to celebrate everything we are grateful for and get together with loved ones for an epic feast. It is the start of the holiday season in the United States, providing the foundation for many happy memories and lots of fun. But before you even Google when is Thanksgiving? Spend a little time learning the true roots of the holiday. In the article that I found on Google, love Google, which is helping me present this word for awareness on this Thanksgiving Day, there is a person named Amy Jacober, and she is the Senior Communications Officer for First Nations Development Institute, and Raymond Foxworth, PhD, a citizen of the Navajo Nation, to give you a deeper understanding of and appreciation for Thanksgiving. Yes, you can still settle down with family to give thanks, but it is important to know what you are celebrating and unlearn some long-held myths. I would like to bring awareness to the real history of Thanksgiving. Did you learn the real history of Thanksgiving? Probably just like me, your grade school understanding of the Thanksgiving story involved pilgrims and Indians sitting down to a happy meal together and becoming fast friends. The lesson likely involved cartoons depicting settlers and Native Americans smiling in celebration, along with a possible mention of Pocahontas. You might be asking, so what's wrong with that? Nearly everything. It turns out, for starters, Pocahontas, a member of the Powhatan tribe, died in 1617, 4 years before the first Thanksgiving. And according to the real history of Thanksgiving in America, settlers were hardly the kindly, giving pilgrims we learned about in our youth. So, how did Thanksgiving start? Most of what we know about early American settlers comes from the journal of William Bradford, the first governor of Plymouth, Massachusetts. He notes that in 1620, the Mayflower brought the Pilgrims to Plymouth Rock, where they established a colony and began farming. The following year, they had a bountiful harvest and decided to give thanks for the food with a 3-day celebration. Historical records show that there was indeed a meeting between the Pilgrims of Plymouth Colony and the Wampanoag. If I destroyed that, my apologies. Thank you for your understanding. But there was a meeting between the Pilgrims of Plymouth Colony and the Wampanoag tribe at this time. But the Native Americans were not honored guests. They likely were not even invited. Many historians now think that Wampanoag soldiers heard celebratory gunshots and screams from this pilgrim settlement, and the Wampanoag assumed they were under attack. And because they had a diplomatic treaty of mutual defense with the Pilgrims, they sent 90 soldiers to the settlers' aid, and this is explained by Jacober. So that's one unveiling of truth. So let's move on to reveal more. When was the first Thanksgiving? The Pilgrims may have celebrated in 1620, but that wasn't actually Thanksgiving. So, when was the first Thanksgiving? That occurred in the fall of 1621 in what is now Massachusetts, but here's a piece of Thanksgiving trivia. It did not become well known until Bradford's journal was discovered and published by Sarah Josepha Hale, a magazine editor in the early 1800s. Hale was so taken with the story of that first Thanksgiving that she lobbied 5 U.S. presidents to make it a federal holiday in 1863. President Abraham Lincoln finally declared Thanksgiving an official U.S. holiday, an act he saw as a step toward reuniting the fractured country after the Civil War, and he put on the calendar for the last Thursday of November. And then in December 1941, President Franklin D. Roosevelt changed Thanksgiving to the fourth Thursday in November to avoid confusion in years where there is a fifth Thursday in November. He also reasoned that this change slightly lengthened the holiday season, which was good for the economy, considering Black Friday is nearly a holiday in and of itself. It is safe to say he was right. So again, let's bring forth awareness to what did the first Thanksgiving look like? The first Thanksgiving bore little resemblance to what we would recognize as a traditional Thanksgiving today, some four centuries later. The event was a harvest festival with a mix of religious, pagan, and practical traditions dating back centuries. The pious pilgrims centered the celebration around Thanksgiving prayers and gratitude to God for their bounty. But they also had bonfires, Thanksgiving songs, food, and gunshots that got the attention of the Native Americans. Contrary to what you might have learned in elementary school, this was no potluck dinner where pilgrims hung elaborate Thanksgiving decorations and Native Americans brought the roasted turkey. But there was a meeting, and they did share a meal together, according to Bradford. The Wampanoag people brought deer, and there was some type of cooked fowl, although it was most likely duck, not turkey. They also ate cranberries, vegetables, cornmeal, and pumpkin, but not in the form of pumpkin pie. Why is Thanksgiving still controversial? What is the harm in believing the happy version so many of us grew up with? It is just a story, right? This whitewashing downplays the long and bloody series of conflicts between white settlers and Native Americans that would occur over the next 2 centuries. Narratives of a harmonious Thanksgiving celebration were created to justify westward expansion and manifest destiny. Jacob explains this, and the term manifest destiny, coined more than 2 centuries after the first Thanksgiving, it was the belief that settlers were destined by God to expand across America and prosper. The simple story also perpetuates myths that still harm Native Americans today, says Foxworth. And this serves as the inaugural program. Foxworth, he serves as the inaugural program director of the Indigenous Knowledge Initiative for the Henry Luce Foundation. What is the real history of Thanksgiving then? The myths of Thanksgiving marginalize the truth of what really happened in North America. We need to understand, acknowledge, and share the true history. Only by doing so can we start to move toward healing and reconciliation between Native people and European colonizers. Let's look at some myths. Let's look at the facts between 3 debunked myths that Foxworth had debunked for people to understand. So what are some Thanksgiving myths? As you celebrate this holiday now and beyond, take note for awareness of these popular myths about the day. Myth 1. The first Thanksgiving started the tradition that founded the holiday. The truth? The harvest celebration of 1621 was not called Thanksgiving and was not repeated every year. The next official day of Thanksgiving was after settlers massacred more than 400 Pequot men, women, and children. Governor Bradford's journal decreed, for the next 100 years, every Thanksgiving day ordained by a governor is in honor of the bloody victory, thanking God that the battle had been won. Myth 2. Pilgrims and Native Americans were friends who worked together. Truth? This was true in some limited conditions, like the diplomatic treaty of protection, but more often the settlers took what they wanted, while tens of thousands of Native Americans died of diseases brought by the colonizers, sometimes intentionally, and more were captured and sold into slavery. Even Squanto, famous for translating and teaching the settlers how to farm native crops, learned those skills out of necessity after being kidnapped as a child and sold into slavery in Spain. He returned to Cape Cod to find that he was the only surviving member of his tribe. Myth 3. The Pilgrims taught the uncivilized Indians about Thanksgiving. Truth. Many people still have a picture of Native Americans living in dirt and squalor until the European settlers enlightened them. Nothing, though, nothing could be further from the truth. Native Americans had large and complex societies long before settlers arrived. They already had established harvest celebrations, feast of traditions, and holidays of their own. They were also well aware of the virtue of gratitude and had their own religious beliefs and rituals. With knowledge comes power. I said that in the beginning, I believe. It's a very true statement. We know that in this current day, which is 2025, our school history books has been rewritten. So the government and the people up high above, they can shape and mold America's young to only have knowledge that they want our youth to learn. Because with knowledge comes power. If they can mold the minds of the youth to not know the real history, even for my upbringing of not knowing the real stories of history, we become ignorant because we don't know. So once you understand the complicated real history of Thanksgiving, there are things you can do in celebrating this holiday in a meaningful way while still respecting and honoring Native Americans who lost their life. And it was celebrated because the Native Americans that lived on the land prior, and they were slaughtered. So You can also make new traditions with your loved ones. Like I was asking in the beginning, and I'm asking again, share the truth. Talk to your children and other loved ones about the real history of Thanksgiving. Correct myths when you hear them. Have open discussions in public places like schools. Avoid stereotypes in decorations and crafts. Be aware of how you represent Native Americans in crafts and media. For example, in some schools, even in my memory of schools, I totally remember this. Students may make Thanksgiving crafts like headbands using feathers, but in many Native American cultures, feathers are highly religious articles, and presenting sacred activities in trivial ways can be highly offensive and disrespectful, even if it seems perfectly innocent. Donate to organizations led and controlled by Native Americans. Donating money can go a long way toward helping, but not all charities are created equal. The First Nations Development Institute has compiled a list of hundreds of community partners that are working in Native American food sovereignty, language preservation, youth programs, community building, and asset building. Learn more. Read books. Like me going on Google just to get this really good, informative write-up that I was able to print off to be able to present a truthful message among all you listeners. So you don't have to go too far to seek knowledge and understanding and awareness. So read books, search, do an online search. So read those books, do the research, both for yourself and with your children, that portray Native American and American history in an accurate way. Seek out books by Native authors. Talk to Native Americans and learn about their culture and how they celebrate Thanksgiving. Choose a book to share with your family on Thanksgiving and tell untold stories of Native Americans about the experts like Amy Jacober. She is the Senior Communications Officer for First Nations Development Institute, the most highly rated American Indian nonprofit in the nation that provides direct financial grants, advocacy, and more for Native American communities throughout the United States. Amy Jacober has more than 20 years of communications, marketing, and copyright experience in both corporate and nonprofit sectors. She joined First Nations in 2020, where she shares news and highlights about First Nations and their grantees. Raymond Foxworth, he is a PhD citizen of the Navajo Nation. He serves as the inaugural program director of the Indigenous Knowledge Initiative from the Henry Luce Foundation. He is the former vice president of First Nations Development Institute, First Nations, headquartered in Longmont, Colorado. At First Nations, I led the organization's fundraising, grant making, and external communications. So these people, why trust them? Because they really did research for the truth. So I am glad and honored to be able to share this and honoring my Native American roots. I know that people of my history, the Native American side, have gone through much suffering. And so today, being Thanksgiving, if you watch this message today, maybe take a moment of silence and just give an honored moment to the people who lost their life on this day that was declared a Thanksgiving Day. And then next, count your blessings. Even if it's not much, count your blessings. There's always someone who's worse off. So, I am forever redeemed, and I shared this message to bring awareness. And I ask of you to share it with others, with your family, and do more research. Learn the truth. Enlighten yourself with the truth of history. Like I said, I do know that the history books were rewritten to guard the eyes from learning truth about history. It is up to you, parents, to teach your young the truth and to upbring them in morals and values that our country was founded on. Thank you. I pray blessings on your Thanksgiving Day, and God bless you all.